So I think when you're a kid and you first start getting into cars, you know, it's really exciting. You have your tools, you get on the ground, you jack up the car, you work on the car. But when you do that for a number of years, you start to dream about having a lift at your house. I had quick jacks, I used them. It wasn't permanent enough for me. Every time I would want to work on something, I would always debate, is it going to be quicker just to put the car in jack stands and jack it up? What this video is not about me flexing. This video is about me telling you kind of what is involved in getting a lift. What kind of things do you need to consider, and what kind of things do you need to do, even if you have a garage that can fit a lift, so that you can be able to put a lift and have one installed. So obviously I don't have a big working space. I wanted to be able to have working space. I make a lot of things, I fabricate a lot of things, I like to weld. You know, when the car is here and it's on the ground, I don't have any more space. There's nowhere to go. So having the car up in the air like it is now, it's completely out of my way. And I'm super bite-sized, which means I fit right underneath this baby, you know what I mean? There's a lot of prep that goes into fitting a lift into a one-car garage. The first thing that I did was I opted to go with a 4-post lift. The reason I went with a 4-post lift for the most part has to do with the concrete thickness. My concrete thickness, when you did the concrete test, turned out to be too thin for the requirements for a 2-post lift. So right there, I was at a disadvantage, but a 4-post lift, because it has 4 legs, the weight is evenly distributed, and if you're not anchoring it down, I didn't have to worry about the concrete thickness. The next thing I had to consider was what brand. Look, I wanted to buy a cheaper Chinese brand because I did not want to spend a lot of money. You know, my wife—
This is my wife.
—was the voice of reason here. She said to me, she said, you're gonna do this once. You've dreamed about this for a long time. Spend the money and get the best lift you can. I did a lot of research between Challenger and Benpack. I spoke to the guys at Benpack. They're great people. There was good customer service. Ultimately, I found an installer that I really liked, and he was local, and he serviced and really installed mostly Challenger stuff. And finding an installer in your area that you can work with, especially for residential, is really important. I had an overhead opener, meaning that it hung out in the middle of the garage. That wasn't gonna work if I was gonna put a car in that space. So I had to go with a jack screw type opener. It's quiet, it's amazingly quiet, it's really nice. I have a Chamberlain. I found it to be really good. I know it's made by LiftMaster. LiftMaster is obviously the upper echelon of that Chamberlain brand. So I had to take the tracks down. I had to install a torsion style spring opener. I had to get new tracks made for the garage door so that they actually went all the way up and they went tight to the garage ceiling so I can clear the lift when the car was up there. And I also had to make sure that we got this nifty, screw jack opener installed, which meant that I also had to run conduit up and get power up there. So these were all things that had to happen before I ever got close to even putting the lift in here. I know when I was looking for a lift, I watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I really, I measured this garage 150 times. I really tried to make sure that I knew exactly what I was gonna get and if it was gonna fit. I will say that the lift company that I went with, they offered me the option to pay $150 in advance for a site survey. They came out, they confirmed my measurements, and in addition to confirming my measurements, they checked ceiling height, they checked my door, they made sure that the door was going to be far enough away from the lift and the car when it was up at full height. And once they did that, they said, hey, you're good to go. Then they came to install the lift, and it was great. They showed up, there were 2 guys. They used their truck a lot. They had a crane on the truck. I can honestly say that if you are trying to install the lift yourself, it's gonna take you a lot more time. They were here for 3 hours. I mean, top to bottom, 3 hours, installed, done, showed me how to work the lift, and left. So the one thing that you have to think about when you start buying a lift, there are accessories. There are a lot of accessories that can come with these lifts. And so what I did was I actually sprung for some of those accessories. The first thing I sprung for are these sliding drip pans. Now, they come off and they can unstack and they can slide this way. So if you're gonna be pulling a tranny or an engine and you have that stuff that residually bleeds off and drips for days, you don't have to get it all over the floor. You can slide one of these pans to certain parts in the car. I have 4 of them, and I can really cover up any of the areas where stuff is dripping. One of the things that you'll notice when you start working on a lift is that everything under the car is now immediately dark. So I made an LED kit by using some Amazon LED lights. I took them apart. I pulled the boards out, I cut them apart, I soldered them together, and I bought this aluminum track that actually has a 45-degree angle on it and a cover. So they actually have frosted covers on them. You could see when I flip this switch, all of a sudden everything is completely illuminated. The great part about this is that I don't need a drop light. I really can see all the way up here. I don't know how well the camera can see this, but these lights that are on the inside of the tracks here, I did them the whole length of this lift, and it allows me, no matter where I'm working, to really not have to use a drop light. So one of the things I sprung for were rolling bridge jacks, and yes, they're not cheap. But what I will say is, first off, they roll pretty effortlessly, and the other thing is, it really allows me to get the car up off the ramps here so that I can service brakes, suspension, swap any of those types of parts out. And it's my compromise for not being able to get a 2-post lift, right? These legs actually pull out to adjust out to the pinch welds. And I find these hockey pucks to be pretty invaluable. They allow me just enough space so that I can, get closer to that area and not have to worry about kind of bottoming out the jack when I put it up. I can pretty much service anything I have to on this car using the 4-post lift. So as you can see, it's pretty easy. We got the car off with really little effort. You will notice that I have gone a few steps here and I put some grip tape, some good old grip tape that you would find on a skateboard. It's in a couple key spots on the top of the ramp, right there and right there. And you might be saying, why in those spots? Well, those are the spots that when you try to pull the car back on, my wheels, just because of the nature of trying to come up a little bit of an incline, seem to like to spin the most. This is a pretty finely painted surface. It's pretty smooth. Any bit of moisture, it makes it extremely difficult to get the car back up on the ramps. You don't want that to happen. Grip tape has allowed me to kind of get up without any issues, and that's it. But you can see, once it's on the ground, super easy, not really hard, and I have got these mats here so I know exactly when to stop so I don't roll off the back. That's helpful when you're bringing the car in by yourself. And you can see that once the lift is down, these things are out of the way. They don't hit the car, nothing happens. Super smooth, and if I have to utilize a space with the car out of here, that's not a problem either. Thanks for watching. We hope you found this informative. Have any comments, questions, leave them down below. I'll personally try to answer them and get to anything I could think of that will relate to my lift purchase process. Take care. We'll catch you on the next one.